Hi, Tim Unkert here. And in the last video, we did the markup for this page. So we did all of the index.html markup. And so that's all of this here. In this video, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be creating or working on the style.scss file, and then we're going to use SASS preprocessor to switch that to style.css. We're also going to go to a website, flaticon.com, and we are going to get some of these images, okay? And so this is what, well, this is the website where I got the images. Let's check. I think I actually have them downloaded. So yeah, I do. Okay, so I'm gonna copy some of these over, but if I wanted to find the unicorn, I would search for unicorn, and then a bunch of unicorns come up. So this is like the one I used in the hero. I downloaded the SVG for this. They give you a place where you can make an attribution, which you should do if you are doing this. Okay, so anyways, that is the website. It's a great website. Check it out, where I got some of those images. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I want to open the style.scss file and work on that. And I'm using the microtext editor. And in the previous video, I mentioned that there were so many different, if I went through this, there were so many different little classes I use or IDs I use and all that kind of stuff that I'm going to have to reference, that I'm going to want to have the index.html open while I open the style.scss. So to do that on micro, I'm going to hit Control E, and that's going to bring my little cursor down here where I can type a command. I'm going to type vsplit, which is going to give me a vertical split, and then style, the file I want to open, so style.scss, okay? And that's going to open the style.scss file right up here, and I'm going to start on that. And the first thing I want to do is import a font. And so what I'm going to do is going to go back to my browser, and I'm going to go to Google, look for Google Fonts, and I'm actually importing two different fonts, Open Sans and Roboto. Okay, so I'm going to go to Open Sans first and go down and just select the regular 400. I'm going to go back to my fonts, go to Roboto, and select the bold 700. Okay. And then I'm going to move this, and I want to just import it. So I'm going to highlight all that, hit Control C to copy it, and then to paste it into my terminal, I hit Control Shift V. Okay, so I've imported the font that I want. Okay, so next up, what I want to do is declare some font variables. Okay, so I'm going to have the font primary be Open Sans, and that's what we imported there, and then the backup is sans serif. Okay, the font secondary is going to be Roboto, and the backup is sans serif. Okay, the base font size. So the base font size is going to be 1 rem. Now, the reason why I'm defining this is because in using SASS, I can set a base font, and then I can set some of my other larger fonts as multiples of that base font. So I can say like a certain font for a certain heading is going to be 2 times the base font. And that's really cool, because then if I want to change the size of the base font, I can still keep that heading the same size in proportion to it. And it makes it easier to maintain, basically. Okay, so then I'm going to have my heading 3 font size, which is, we used a couple of heading 3s there, and that's going to be 2.5 times the base font size. Okay. Then we're going to have a heading 4 font size. I made that 2 times the base font size. Okay, and then I also did just a regular one for large font size. Make that 1.8 times the base font size. Okay. And this, makes it nice and easy. If you want to say, oh, I want to change the font, you can change the multiple very easily at the top of the file, and it affects everything below it. So it's nice having these variables that you can declare. And then I also have a medium font size, which is 1.3 times the base font size. And I made a small one. That's the font I use in the footer. That's going to be 0.75 times the base font size. Okay. And then next we're going to have some color variables. Okay, so I want to have a primary color. And this is based off of those images I downloaded. So what I did to get my colors is I'll show you. Hex by image is what I'm searching for right now. And I came up with something like this site. Let me move this over. Okay. And it allows you to upload a file. And there's more than one of these sites. So you just do hex color by image, or hex by image. And then I can, let's say I want to upload this TypeScript. I didn't end up using the TypeScript one, but then I can click on the color and it gives me the color code down here. And that allows me to set it to kind of match the picture. So I use the pictures to kind of set my theme. So like if I was designing for your business, what I would do is take your business logo and that kind of thing and then match the colors based off of that. Okay, so that's the way you can do it. Or if you're designing for your own business and you're watching this, it's a way you can do it. You can use this online resource or a resource like it to figure out the hex colors, or RGBA or HSL, whatever you want. I mean, hex is probably the most common. So anyways, that's how I did that. All right, so let's get back to our colors here. Let's move this over. Primary color was 006BC0. Okay, and now with this, you need the hashtag symbol in front of the hex colors for it to work. So just make note of that. Secondary color was 0096 DC. Okay. Then I had this orange color. I didn't actually use it, but that was based off the HTML. So maybe you want to use it. That was FC49 0B. Okay. Then we had a yellow, which I don't think I used the yellow either. I stuck mostly with the blues. That was F6D8 67. Okay. And then we had a gray. So the first primary was a blue. The secondary primary was also a blue. And then we had this blue 2 from the TypeScript. I might have used that. So I used a lot of the primary and secondary for my website. So we had gray, though, was 495663. That was another part of the photo. And then blue 2, this was from the TypeScript. So that was 0078CF. Okay. So those were some of my color variables. Next up, you have a thing in SASS that I used was mix-ins, where you can create like a group of styles and then import them into include them, not import. Well, you include them in the other styles down. So you don't have to keep typing out. Like if you have like 4 styles, you don't want to keep, and you're using them the same for a bunch of different things. You don't want to keep typing those 4 styles, so you can just include it as a mix-in. Okay, so let's make a comment for mix-ins. Okay, so the mix-ins that I had, so the way you start, you do @ at mixin, and then whatever you're going to, a space, and then whatever you're going to name the mixin. So font styles primary was my first one. And for that, I had the font family. I used the variable above, font primary. Okay, font weight was 400. Line height was 1.6, and letter spacing was 0.05 rem. Okay, so that was my first mix-in. Next one, I used a mix-in for uppercase. I was going to include some other stuff, but all I did for this, for the uppercase one, we'll just use it. For the uppercase one was text transform uppercase. So it's not really much faster than just typing text transform uppercase, the regular CSS. Then I kind of used a reset mix-in. I just made this because I might use this more. I only used this in one spot, but I might use it more. And that was just padding 0, margin of 0. So that was taking away the built-in browser padding and margin for particular units, and then allowing you to define it later, so you didn't have to fight what the browser had. And then I had a container mix-in, so mix-in container. I had a max width on that of 1140 pixels and a margin of 0 auto. Okay, so that was, restricting the max width and then centering it. Okay, for the container classes. And I had a mix-in H3 font styles. And for that, I had a font size, the H3 font size. I had a font family of font secondary. So that's the secondary font family. That's a Roboto. Letter spacing was 0.2 rem. And I included the uppercase mix-in. Okay, so basically text transform uppercase. Then I had a mix-in for the H4 font styles. Okay, with that, I had a font size was the H4 font size. I actually kept them all the same size. I put H3, but we're going to do H4 in this one. Font family was font secondary. The letter spacing 0.18 rem, and I think I included. Yep, I included the uppercase. Not uppercase, uppercase. Okay, so then let's get into, we got into some of the just normal CSS next. This next part, I had asterisk, and then asterisk, colon, colon, before, asterisk, colon, colon, after, and I'll explain what this does in a moment. And then I had box sizing, border, box, okay? So what that does is if you define an element and you say it's going to be 600 pixels, but you put padding and margin in it, it's still going to be 600 pixels. Okay, it's not going to be like the actual element's not going to go to 580. It's going to be 600 pixels. So it's basically going to keep everything more consistent when you do that. So like when I'm doing flex basis later on, it just works better with it. You don't have to worry about like, oh, I'm putting a little bit of padding here. Is that going to shift something over if I put the exact percents? So that's a good thing to include, in my opinion, for what it's worth. Body. In the body, I'm going to include, this is the only place I included the reset. So I included that reset mix-in to put the margin and the padding at 0. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how the SCSS using SASS is maybe a little bit advantageous. So we have a header, and then within the header, you have a background color with the primary color. So we're using that variable, so that's a little different, although you can use variables in CSS3. Min height for colors anyways. Min height was 80 pixels. Okay, then within this, so you can nest stuff. So the containers within the header. So I nested the CSS within, so you can't do this in normal CSS. You can't like nest stuff within stuff. So the container is nested within that header ID, okay, this container. So I'm doing styles for this one. Now I could do a bunch of stuff. All I did here was include the container mix in. But in some of the other stuff, I nested it, included styles a little differently. Okay, so next off, I nested the logo ID within inside this. And after this section, I think we're going to compile the style.css, and we'll see where we're at. So we don't want to go too far into this, but float I had for left. Now this, I didn't use Flexbox. I used Flexbox lower on. I'll show you how I did it this way. I did inline block. I don't know if we added the cursor mix in. So hold on one sec. There was one I forgot. Mix in because I'm going to include it next. Mix in cursor. And for that one, I'm just going to have cursor pointer. Okay. And again, that was something I could just probably type, but I did it as a mix-in, so I had include cursor. It's really for multiple things. So image, the image is nested inside the logo, so I did like a nesting inside of a nesting, so you can nest multiple things. That's the real advantage of this. And you'll see when the CSS is generated, the regular CSS, why it's like really kind of lengthy. Especially with some of my names for some of my IDs, especially as we go on further. So you might see the advantage of doing this. Padding on the top of the image was 20 pixels. Margin on the bottom was -3 pixels. Okay. And let's actually save it at this point. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit Control E, and I'm going to do a horizontal split. Okay. Then I'm going to hit Control E again and type term, hit enter. That's going to give me a terminal here, okay? And so what I'm going to do to compile this so we can just see where we're at is I'm going to type SASS and then style.scss, that's the file we're working on, and then the output file, which is going to be just style.css. Hit enter. That's going to run, and it quickly compiled the SCSS file into a regular CSS file. Okay, so now if we go back here, and actually if we go here and go into our projects and get on this one and open the index.html, you'll see where we're at. So we're starting to have some of these styles come together. Now we have a lot of stuff jumbled all over, but you'll see the primary color has come out behind. We still have a lot of work to do, but we're starting to get it. We at least got the primary color. It still looks blatantly horrible, but we will get there. So don't worry. Okay. Now I'm going to open up another text editor. I have a GUI version of NeoVim that I set up. Let's go into the projects. I think, what are we calling this? Landing page SASS? Because I did SASS landing page. It was the same project, so I did this before. But anyways. So we go to the style.css, and let's just take a look, and you can start to see some of the nesting, how you would do it. Now we're not at the point where it's like, starting to go kind of across here, but we're going to get to that point. So anyway, so that's just, you'll see later how this becomes a bit of an advantage. All right. Or hopefully you will. Maybe you won't. I don't know. Or maybe you think, I just want to do regular CSS, which, that works. That works. Okay. So I'm going to make some room to exit this, close this terminal out. I'm just going to hit exit and hit enter to close. And we're going to continue. Okay. So we got done with the logo. But then after that, we have a span. So we have to work on that. So in the span, I want to include font styles primary. Okay. I want to include uppercase. Okay, I want the color to be white, so that's FFF. I want the padding on the top to be 10 pixels. I want the display to be inline block. Okay, so I'll work through a few more things, and then we will go from there. Okay. Next up thing I want to work on is the unordered list, and I want that to float to the right. Okay, and then I'm going to work on the list item, which is nested inside the unordered list. I want a display for that of inline block. That's going to make them next to each other. I want my padding to be 10 pixels on the top, 10 pixels to the right, 0 on the bottom, and 10 pixels to the left. I want the color to that to be white as well, because those links are white in the menu. Okay, so now we're going to include some mix-ins. I'm going to include the font styles primary. I'm going to include the uppercase. I'm going to include the cursor, so cursor pointer. Then within the list items, there's the anchor tags. So we're going to nest those inside of that. Those are going to have a color of white also. They're going to have no text decoration. So text decoration is none. For menu items, I see people with websites that usually don't include the underline that comes with the link. You do want to be careful with that now because it is an accessibility issue. So you want to make sure that people know that it's a link. And sometimes, and I never really thought about this, but if you just change the color of the link, people that are colorblind aren't going to know. So sometimes the underline, it might just be best to leave it in. That's the point of this story. But a lot of times on the menu, people know that those are links, and we can go from there. All right, so I'm also going to include font styles primary in this, and I'm going to go down here, and I also want to include something when you hover over the links. Okay, so when you hover over the links, I want the background color to change to the secondary color, and then I want the padding on the bottom to be 10 pixels. Okay, all right, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to hit Control E, bring up a horizontal split, and hit Control E again, type term, and bring up the terminal. I'm going to hit the up arrow to get that command. So we went from past exit to just using the up arrow to go to SASS style.scss style.css. I'm going to hit enter to recompile my style sheet, and that's done. And I'm going to refresh. And you'll notice now that we're starting to come together. Now, these images aren't in the image folder, so let's do that. So go to the projects. We're doing landing page SASS. We need to create a new folder called images. Okay, and then we need to take those pictures that we downloaded and start copying them. So we have the unicorn, and yeah, let's copy those all in. So that'll help us to see what this is turning out to be. So we got the SVG. We also want the PNG. That's the PNG is the actual little one that I have by Tim Web Design. We want the HTML. We're going to copy that. We want the JavaScript. We're going to copy that. And we want the CSS. I didn't use the TypeScript one. We're going to copy the CSS one in. Okay. Now let's close this out and let's refresh this again. And you see that this little image comes up. We have this huge unicorn here, huge HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I think we need to also copy in the PHP one. So go to downloads, PHP, copy that one. Paste that one in, okay. And then hit refresh. And so we'll go down and we see our huge PHP one. So we still got some work to do, but we've got the nav menu done at this point. I think we're going to take a break and let you guys digest that. So I'll conclude part 2. Hit or smash the like button if you really like this video, as it helps to help the channel grow. Also subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And thanks for watching, and have a great day.